All right, Kyle. So we joke around a lot with soccer and how I'm not the biggest fan. And you want to know why? Because a 0-0 game in hockey can be oh so exciting, especially when you win it in the end. And shootouts, yeah, we have that in common with soccer too, but they're a little bit more meaningful in our game compared to that game. But I digress. The Avalanche with a 1-0 victory over the New York Islanders in shootout fashion. A lot to get to in this one. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you right now.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Avalanche fans, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, who is in a giddy mood. Well, we're both in a giddy mood because we're back. We're finally back and can record a show. Like, we were both sick at the same time. You were worse than me.
Yeah.
And we're still not 100%, but who's 100% at this stage in the season?
We're all day to day.
Exactly, especially with the injuries that the Avalanche have had on. We just wanted to be part of the team.
That's right.
And that's the only way we could have been, was just to get sick. But we're feeling a little bit better, and so glad to be back and doing some more Locked On Avalanche for everybody. The Avs, well, before we get to the game against the Islanders, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. You can follow us on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com, and follow us over on our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe and get notified when a new show goes live. All right, sir, for this game number 4 of 5 home games in a row for the Avs, and they've won 3 out of those 4. This one was in kind of fun fashion, a 0-0 game through 60 minutes. The extra frame in overtime, couldn't get anything there. The only goal let in, even in the shootout, was an Evan Rodrigues goal, who played a fantastic game, by the way.
Yeah.
But this was all about the goalies, and mainly Ilya Sorokin on the New York Islanders. It was not for a lack of trying. The Avalanche threw absolutely everything at him. I think at one stage in the game on altitude, they had up all the shots thrown towards him, and it was in the 90s. And there was still time to go. They might have surpassed 100, including the overtime. Crazy game, a fun, exciting game that saw one goal in a shootout.
Yeah, you are definitely seeing 2 hot goalies, and the way the Avs were picking up momentum. And there were times that they were getting shots, rebounds, collecting their own shots and rebounds, and just peppering. It was exciting. It wasn't one of those 0-0 games that you're just like, please, can this be over? Can we just get on to the next game? It was exciting. This was best on best. I enjoyed all 60 minutes of it.
Yeah.
When nothing came in overtime, I was like, of course, naturally, this is how it's going to go. And then you mentioned Erod's goal. It wasn't just a shootout goal. That little dangle was
nice.
So nice. So it was the little icing on the cake, the little cherry on top. And we walk out of Ball Arena with a win, coupled with what we've been putting together. And then you look ahead, and you could possibly see a path where you could string things together and improve where you're sitting in the Central. I don't know how you're not happy right now as an Avalanche fan.
Well, I mean, that I think will just work itself out. You know, when you get guys back and the way that they're playing, you have to be encouraged by how they're playing. I think the standings will – there's no need to panic when it comes to that. But as far as this game goes, yeah, I think the Avalanche just got progressively better as the game went on. It was really the Islanders very early in the game that were kind of in control. It's not that the Avs were playing poorly. I think it's just the Islanders just came ready to go. That game, they played a game. Their previous game was against Vegas that they won. But I wanted to see. I didn't know if that was the day before. No, it wasn't. It was 2 days. Okay, I didn't know if they were coming off a back-to-back or not. So they had a day off in between. Regardless, the Islanders looked good early on, and then the Avalanche just kind of really took all that over. And the Islanders, let's see, the Avs had 46 shots on goal, while the Islanders only had 26. But it really didn't seem like 26 for them. Georgiev, he got worked a little bit, but not as much as Sorokin. Like the Avalanche threw 46 shots on net, and a lot of them. I'm going to bring up Money Puck. See how many like medium and high danger chances they had, because they were giving them fits. Yep. It wasn't like they were just throwing shots from right inside the blue line or outside of the perimeter. They were, but they were, like you said, they were there to kind of, collect rebounds as best they could. But the Islanders do a good job of shutting that down. But the Avs had shooting lanes all night long. Like I thought they played their power play, which they only had 2 power plays, I thought looked great. That just resulted in nothing. And after that, I think all the penalties were in the first period. No, there was 2 in the second period. Okay, so I thought the 2 that the Avalanche had were all in the first, but the 2 the Avalanche had were in the second. And then the refs just swallowed the whistles. Yep. They were just like, you guys, whoever can beat a goalie here, go for it. So much so that even Cale Makar said, no, don't call that penalty, and they didn't. We'll talk about that in a minute. That was weird. But I just thought the Avalanche just were everywhere. They were swarming, getting shots on net, trying to just muck it up in front of Sorokin, and you have to give him a ton of credit for not letting anything in.
And the Avs were attacking in so many different ways. They were attacking from what we've kind of grown accustomed to in the past couple games, where they gain that offensive zone transition and they fire something and then they go clean it up. Nothing was happening there. You saw a lot of passing. There was a couple times where the 5-on-5 looked like there was a power play for the Avs, with the way the passing was there and the defense was having to cower and try and find their man. The Avs were doing a very good job with their passing. And then there was one sequence, I think it was in the second period, where the Avs were setting plays up in Gretzky's office behind the net. And I haven't seen that in a while, where they were resetting the play behind the net and then passing it out to the dots and then passing around. And at that moment, it's one of those, you're just like how we were raving about the 3D power play earlier in the season. When you can have that confidence in your ability with the line combinations you have out there, where you feel confident enough to set plays up behind the opposing goalie. I loved getting to see that little wrinkle that they were trying. And it shows that they didn't get frustrated with the amount of shots they were putting on net and nothing going in. You saw that they weren't just like, why is none of this working? This is what we always do. Let's try and mix it up. And that was very refreshing to me.
Yeah, at some point you don't have to get frustrated. You can get frustrated if you're not getting shots on net.
Yeah.
Be like, why can't we crack this defense? You were doing that all night long. Yeah. So you don't get angry about that. You just be like, we just have to keep pressing and just try to get something past him. All right, this is according to Money Puck. So the Avs with the 46 shots on net, unblocked shot attempts 66, low danger shot attempts 40, medium danger 18, and high danger 8. That's a lot of high danger chances. You don't get like high danger chances in a game. You maybe get like 2 or 3 or 4. Or let's see what Georgiev have against him. He had 4 high danger chances against him. That's kind of the norm. 8 is a lot. Yeah. Now, here's the other part. The expected goals for the Avalanche, where'd it go? 5.7. When you have that many expected goals and you only have 1, that goalie is on a tear.
Yeah.
And that you never see discrepancy like that, ever. If they had 5.7 expected goals, they should have had way more than 1. I'm not going to say 5 or 6, but you probably should have 3 or 4. That's just Sorokin just taking this game. And is it surprising me that they had to go to a shootout? No, because he was not going to let anything in regulation by him. And Georgiev did what he had to do. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't pressed as much as Sorokin was, but hey, a shootout, or excuse me, a shutout in an NHL game, doesn't matter how pressed you are or not, it's still an achievement. It was just one of those things that, like, one of these guys is going to have to lose.
Yeah.
And for Islanders fans, they're probably like, I feel like Islanders fans must be feeling like their offense let them down, because it kind of just went away as the game was going on. You didn't feel, you never feel in a 0-0 game that you got it in hand, and you're like, any just unlucky or puck luck that goes the way of the Islanders could get a goal for them, but they just were not pressing the issue like the Avalanche were. Like we were just saying, the Avalanche was throwing everything there, trying to get traffic in front of the net, and the Islanders were just happy to get the puck out of the zone, bring it into their own zone, and maybe just flick something up. It was weird to see how it was a 0-0 game, and one team was just forcing the issue in the Avalanche, while the other team was just, we'll hang on. And if we get something lucky, maybe that's all we can ask for right now. It was just weird to see that towards the end.
And to be a fly on the wall for Locked On Islanders right now, like, to have a goalie put up that kind of performance and it go down to a shootout, like it was 0-0 the whole way through, like, just to analyze the game, knowing if we could have just trickled one in, it would have been a completely different story, because you don't get performances like that out of your goalie all the time. And for that opportunity, I wouldn't say wasted, but for it not to come away with 2 points, it has to be frustrating for the Islanders.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hear from Bet Online, and then we'll kind of get into individual players and definitely a sound check that we have to get to for this one. But first, we have betonline.net. It's your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to the college bowl season to basketball. Even Kyle's up on the college basketball right now. Who's your college basketball team?
I'm an Auburn guy.
Okay, because I knew you were Auburn for college football, but I didn't know if that held true for basketball.
Yeah.
And then who are you rooting for the football Final Four?
I'll go TCU.
Okay. I thought that's right. You did say okay.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a Michigan man, you're going to go against
nothing against you, my friend.
Here. All right. If you love sports podcasts, and who does not, you can find those at Bet Online as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. That is betonline.net, and it's where the game starts. All right, so I think we should start with maybe the bad news. And obviously, Kurtis MacDermid came back, but we did have an injury. It was Andrew Cogliano going hard into the boards. It wasn't.
I thought you were about to say this is our bad news. Kurtis MacDermid came back.
Kurtis MacDermid came back. Next segment, no. Andrew Cogliano towards the end of the game. It was a combination. He was getting checked, and his skate kind of picked, and he goes hard into the board, and it's definitely a shoulder. And it was one of those things, like, he just skated right off, went right down the tunnel. And whenever that happens, you're like, yeah, that's never good. I'm getting updates now that just says that they did ask Jared Bednar in the press conference. He doesn't have any information right now. We'll see how it goes tomorrow for him. So maybe one of those things where it looked like, when you separate a shoulder, one guy, it just hangs lower.
Yep.
It was something like that. So we'll just have to see. And it's just the hockey gods giving us something back and then taking another one. So and Cogliano is an important part of this team. They all are.
Yeah.
So you just hope it's not anything that's long-term, obviously.
Yeah, you hope it's something he goes in there, he does the little elbow trick and kind of like puts his shoulder back in, and he's perfectly fine. But no, that's the whole situation the Avalanche have had all year. You get one player back, one gets taken away. It's like a terrible, like, evil genie. Like, you wish for $1 million, you get $1 million doll hairs.
So we'll have to wait for that tomorrow. But as far as kind of like individual players and stats for this game, we talked about the shots on goal. Avalanche did lose the faceoff percentage, but at least they're not getting blown out. And I feel like it's improved a little bit. So they did lose that 55% to 45%. We talked about the power plays. The Islanders only had that one power play in the first. The Avalanche with the 2 power plays. Neither team scored on any of their power plays. Hits were about even, 25 to 24 in favor of the Avalanche. So it was I want to say an even game. It wasn't even in terms of offense, but it was just I thought a hard fought game on both sides. And individually for the Avalanche, I felt like Cale Makar was just everywhere. Like that's what you've been wanting to see from him. With all of, a couple weeks ago when you had the laundry list of players out, they're getting some guys back, and that helps him. I know that's a lot of weight on his shoulders when you have as many important players out as the Avalanche did. It's a lot to ask of him because now guys can clue in on him a lot more than they could before. But when you get Evan Rodrigues back and Val Nichushkin and even Kurtis MacDermid back, it kind of opened things up for him a little bit more, and you saw him everywhere. 31 minutes and 48 seconds of ice time for Cale Makar. That's crazy. And nothing to show for it as far as stats, but that doesn't matter to me. Like he was a difference maker, I thought. And then, if you want to stay with the bigs, Mikko Rantanen, another one who has nothing to show for it on the stat sheet. Nobody does really, except for Evan Rodrigues. But 10 shots on goal, which surprisingly enough, they showed it on altitude when he had 9. That was a career high.
Yeah.
I thought at some point in his career he should have had at least 9 shots on goal.
Well, he also probably had Gabe Landeskog and Nathan McKinnon taking a bunch of those too.
Right. Yeah. So go for it. Who are kind of like standouts for you?
I have 2 super shiny standouts, and something that stood out to me when I was going over the post-game stats that shocked me. Newhook and JT Compher.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up. You guys, you are everywhere. This is exactly what I wanted from game 1, but I'm glad we're getting it now. And I love, especially JT. I'm loving this version of JT Compher. I like to see him score, of course, but you see everything he's putting together. It's right there. You've already seen Newhook. He had performance. I think it was in the Nashville game. I think he's potted that second goal, I believe it was. But everything's positive from those 2.
Yep.
While you have the stats in front of you, why don't you tell me Jacob MacDonald's minutes?
It was nothing. It was a minute and 36 seconds. So
60 minutes of hockey for all those keeping score at home.
More than that, 65.
Yeah, 65 plus shootout. But yeah, that's
and your Cogliano went out.
Yeah,
which was in the third. I don't remember the exact time frame, but there was still a good chunk of time in the third when he went out. And you basically didn't turn to MacDonald and be like, okay, we just need you for a couple shifts to finish this game. You didn't put him in for that.
Yeah.
I don't think he played in the second and the third. I think that entire thing was in the first period. He got a shift in the second, but he didn't play at all.
I have no idea what's going on there. Like MacDermid, I think he had close to 4 minutes.
Still think about that.
Yeah.
You have Kurtis MacDermid coming back, who everybody is excited for some reason. Like he's going to like turn the tide for the, I mean, he gives you, the muscle, sure, but very little and other than that. And the line for that, the fourth line was MacDermid centering. Well, it showed him centering. He's not going to be a center. He did take a face-off, though. I don't know if you noticed that. He did take a face-off, which was hilarious to see.
I thought I was about to relapse into the flu again. I had fevers and chills. And
yeah. So that third line was him. It was MacDonald and Cow. And Cow played 7 minutes, which is kind of more in line with a fourth liner. But if you're not playing MacDermid, if you're not playing MacDonald, and then Cogliano goes out with an injury, playing 3 lines for majority of the game.
That's Avs hockey, baby.
It's kind of a little bit of a risk, but what else? I don't know. You knew that line was going to be kind of blown up a little bit because MacDermid is not going to center. So you knew guys were going to be double shifting, whether it was going to be Comfort or Rantanen. Those guys were going to be double shifting, and it kind of showed.
I'm baffled, confused, perplexed even. Why MacDonald has fallen in favor on the team? I don't know.
Favor.
Yeah, it's that would be the better use of words in that situation. But I haven't really seen. I don't know if it's an attitude thing. I wonder if he's also part of the comments of like quitting and giving up in certain situations. I don't know what's going on.
So I want to talk about that. So why don't there's things that Bednar said, not specifically about MacDonald, but just players in general, about guys that went down to the AHL. But quickly, and then before we get to our sound check, you mentioned like JT Compher. I thought he's continuing to play solid. He had that really good chance in overtime.
Yeah.
That I think Rodrigues threw to him. And the pass was he got it. He collected the puck. He stretched out as much as he can stretch out to get the puck with his stick. And he airmailed it.
Yeah.
But he had a really good opportunity to end it. And so did Cale Makar right at the buzzer in overtime.
Yeah.
A beautiful pass from Mikko Rantanen. Mikko Rantanen was just when you get into that zone,
he was
in any sport. In any sport, when you get when basketball players, Jordan did it all the time.
Oh yeah, where
you can just when you just throw it up in the air, it's going in. You get into that state of flow, and you're just any move you make, you're getting by guys. You're not making any mistakes. Mikko was feeling it last night, feeling it, and he obviously didn't have any points, but that pass that he sent to Makar right at the end of the overtime period is just like, I can do whatever I want and you guys can't stop me right now. Well, one guy can stop me, and that's your goaltender. And the other guy that I want to mention, Ben Myers.
Yes.
Ben Myers looked great. And just another example of a guy getting comfortable, getting minutes. How many did he have? 12 minutes and 13 seconds. Okay. And it was noticeable. So I thought he looked good too.
Yep. And you could, when the sum of your parts are not having like bad games or steps back, this is the kind of confidence you build on. You could feel it like you never felt out of it at any point during that game last night.
No, definitely not. So, all right, let's get to our sound check, and then some things that Jared Bednar said that kind of made my ears perk up. All right, so our Locked On Avalanche sound check. You can check these songs. Colin and I pick songs that we feel best summarize the most recent game and add them to a playlist over on Spotify, which you can follow. Just search LOA sound check. This is volume number 2. Follow that. Volume 1 is still available if you want to follow that as well.
Certified gold at this point.
I think so. I think we're going for a Grammy. None of the songs are ours, but we're getting the Grammy. All right, what do you got for this one?
This one, it hit me when I saw the lineup and I saw our fourth line center, and then just the tone of the game. If you're telling me we're putting in 46 shots and then we have to take it to a shootout, Black Label Society, Demise of Sanity. It's a weird adjustment. Like if you're kind of a snowbird and kind of joining the Avs kind of mid-season, since the cup run where we dominated and outshot everybody and we score goals on, we could beat Olympic teams.
Right
now we're struggling to put goals in the net and struggling to put things together. Like you're having to find new ways to win, and it's kind of shaking that confidence you have in your persona of the Avalanche. Like it's the demise of sanity. You have to kind of put it together and reestablish yourself.
You know who was tied for second shots on goal Mikko Rantanen had 10. That was the most. 2 guys had 6. Care to guess who they were?
Sam Girard and Cale Makar.
Sam Girard and Devon Taves.
Ooh.
Yeah. Sammy G was getting pucks in the net.
Yeah, he looked good too.
And that's another thing we're going to talk about with Jared Bednar in a second. But for me, I can't believe I have to be the one to pick the Metallica song for this.
Ooh.
Sir. I mean, can you guess which one it is?
Creeping Death?
No. How many goals were scored?
Ooh. Yes, please.
That's it. I mean, you
Yes,
have
please.
to. You have to. So pretty cut and dry for me. Kyle's usually a Metallica head, but I thought you were going to take that one. And
I almost picked Creeping Death because that's what it felt like. Just like the constant shots, like nothing going in. It was just like that feeling that it was coming.
No. So it's one.
Very nice.
Pretty simple. So go check those out over on Spotify. Yeah.
That music video freaked me out when I was like 9 years old.
It's one of the I can remember that video just being played over and over again, and it never got old.
Oh.
That's when MTV was good.
Yep.
There was a time MTV was good, believe it or not, for all you youngins.
There used to be music videos.
There was. Yeah. It actually stands for music television, believe it or not. All right. So, yeah. There were some movement with Avalanche roster players. You know, the one that really stuck out to me was Jean-Luc Foudy, who they sent back down. And I don't have the quote in front of me, but Jared Bednar made a comment about we're not in the business of, how should I say it? Like producing player, getting the production of players or getting their skill set, like basically learning on the job.
Yeah.
He's like, we're not in that business. Like, we need wins. We're not here to hold their hand and let them learn on the job. If they're not producing, we'll send them down. And he was like, we don't have a problem with that. That's kind of comes with the gig. We send them back down. We let them know what they got to work on with the expectation that they can come back up at a later date. And he's been saying that a lot about, and it's almost like this new, like, ruthless, like Jared Bednar. And maybe he's always been this way, but he's a little bit more vocal about it right now. And maybe he has to be because there's all these injuries that the Avalanche have. And I was a little bit surprised that they sent Foudy down. And I think he was talking about him specifically, saying, there's times where you're going to have a bad shift or a bad period or even a bad game. And you have to overcome that. And I don't think he was happy with how he played during the Buffalo game. And if things aren't going your way, he still wants to see effort from you. Try to battle through it, try to get through it. And I feel like he didn't see that. And I was just a little bit shocked that if that was the case for Foudy, that was the one and only game where he was like that. So the leash was short with him to send him back down. And the same can be said for Jacob MacDonald.
Yeah.
To play a minute and a half. The writing is on the wall. The minute that the Avalanche gets somebody back, or who knows if they get somebody, they might bring somebody back up tomorrow and send Jacob MacDonald down. You can't have that guy on the roster if you're only going to play him a minute and a half in a game. You can't do that. So I would expect something tomorrow where MacDonald is sent down, or I don't know if because he was on waivers once early, and I think enough time has passed where he would have to go through waivers again to get sent back down. But I don't think anybody's going to claim him if they do have to put him on waivers. It would be shocking to me if they didn't, because why are you keeping a guy on your team where you're only going to play him a minute and a half, and another guy in Kurtis MacDermid that you're only going to play 4 minutes? That's taxing on these lines. You can't keep doing that.
And, I'm 100% on board with what Bednar's philosophy is, and the way he's saying that about, we're not here to develop your talent. No, you're the Colorado Avalanche. You're not here to develop your talent. Like,
right, I get that.
That's what the Eagles are for, and that's the world Bednar knows, and it's where he came from, because he knows the AHL is meant for developing. You refine your craft there, because not everybody's going to have that Cale Makar, like, come right out of college, and boom,
Yeah.
you're with the big club. You know you're not getting called up. You're not, I'm hit 60 days of the AHL. Now I get to make my step up and spend 20 days. No, you have maybe a 2 to 3 game window to show yourself. And if you don't, the end. That's how it goes for a lot of AHL talent. If you're not coming up there equipped and ready to go, don't just think because the team's hurt, this is your way of buying an extended stay in Denver. You have to step it up a little bit, because you also don't want to be the reason for a step back, because this is the NHL. This is a job. They must win games. You're the defending Stanley Cup champion. You can't bring up somebody and then it hurt and you lose the game because of, like, when England was taking out goalies left and right. Because that reflects bad on scouts, management, coaching. They take the fall for it, and that player just goes back to Loveland and disappears for a year and a half until somebody else gets injured.
You're right. But I just found it interesting. Like, you're sending Foodie down, who's played well. And if you didn't like how he played in one game, is that enough to send him down? And your answer to that is to play a guy a minute and a half. Could you not have kept Foodie up and just, had a conversation with? Sure, you can be unhappy with how he played, but I think that what he's done since he's been up here, the good far exceeds the bad, and that's growing pains. And I know that's not what Jared Bednar wants to go through, but did you really feel like that Foodie was going to do that again? Did you feel like he was going to have then you could send him back down? But to have that one game where you're like, nah, I didn't like what you did there, we're going to send you down, and then the guy we're going to keep up, we're only going to play a minute and a half, just makes no sense to me.
I think it helps when it comes to the progression to send him down in that moment, like right on the heels of a bad game. Because if he has that bad game, let's say he played last night against the Islanders and he came close to getting an assist or close to getting a goal, and then we send him down. What's the message we're trying to send to Foodie? Like, what are you trying to improve on? Because, hey, I don't know why I got sitting down. I've made a step up. Like, don't they see that? I feel like the message is easier to understand for Foodie and his progression, knowing that, hey, I had this bad game. You see what happened here. When you go down to Loveland, work on this, and when you come back up, you'll be equipped. I think it helps him understand exactly what they're asking out of him, because if he's making these improvements on his own and making little steps, but still not showing up on the score sheet, if you send him back down, he's just like, well, the roster's full. I'm fine with what I have in my tool bag. It's enough for right now.
And they could, they did that with Martin Kaut. They asked him, where I don't even know what the question was, but he said they were very honest with me on when last time they sent me down what they wanted me to work on. And I've done that since I've been there, and now I'm back, and then we try to implement it. And I thought he looked okay. I didn't think he was spectacular, but he was in on a couple plays. I don't know, man. I just thought it was an odd move that you're gonna send. They sent a couple. I think, was it Hudon? I think Hudon was the other guy that they sent.
Hudon.
Yeah,
Bleed.
No, Bleed's been down. It was Foodie.
I thought Bleed was up on one of those games.
No. So I don't know. I would be surprised if there's not a move.
Yeah.
For Jacob MacDonald, unless you have a sit down with him and let him work it out. But why are you letting him work it out on the NHL level and not someone like Foodie? I get what you're saying about, he has more time to mature down in the AHL and the things that he could work on and implement. You could see some progress in the AHL if it was someone for like Foodie, but I don't know. I just thought he played well enough to warrant giving him another opportunity, especially if you didn't like the way that he played. That's going to happen. Maybe it's a bit deeper than we know. Maybe, he's a kid. He's a kid still. So maybe
that's all I was just about to say. You didn't anticipate, like, if this team was fully healthy, you wouldn't see Foodie this year. There is also
no, you wouldn't. Right.
There's also that risky run of giving so much opportunity that it does hurt your development, that you feel like what you have is enough, and sometimes it's
Sure.
not. You have
Good
to
point.
also understand that. So
Yep.
who knows? We'll see when Foodie comes up again, because guess what? The Avs will get hurt again.
Yeah. All right. So we'll wrap it up for today, and we'll be back tomorrow because the Avs made a trade that we didn't even talk about because a game happened. So
We got to
we'll be
quit
back
getting sick.
I know, right? So Dryden Hunt's on the move. They trade for Dennis Mulligan, who a lot of people think is Evgeny Mulligan's, like Malkin's younger brother. No,
Yeah,
not even
I
spelled the same way.
crossed my eyes, and that's exactly who that is.
And we have this giant lumbering forward on our hands, right? No,
Yep.
quite the opposite. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. And then if there's any moves that happen, I'm anticipating it with the time on ice that a couple players that the Avalanche had. Maybe not MacDermid, but I'm going to be watching to see if anything's happening with Jacob MacDonald. So we shall see. All right. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. We will be back tomorrow, like we said, with anything new that's happening. We'll talk about that trade. Minor as it is, it's still something that we want to talk about. All right. Avs win this thing 1-0 in a shootout. Thank you for tuning in. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. And this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.